Rashmi. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being part of Finacle Conclave 2021 and a very warm welcome to this panel discussion on driving digital operational excellence within the retail banking track. My name is Sudhir Babu, and I have the privilege of facilitating conversation with an eminent set of panelists today. It's my pleasure to introduce to you the group of panelists today. Ajay Kapoor, Executive Vice President and Head of Business Technology Group, HDFC Bank. Henry Aguda, Chief Technology and Operations Officer and Chief Transformation Officer, Union Bank of Philippines. Sajid Vijay Kumar, Chief Operating Officer, Infosys Finacle. Welcome to you all. As we all acknowledge, the pursuit of operational excellence is a continuous journey, a journey that demands concerted efforts across all facets of organizations. The imperative for digital operational excellence is influenced by many developments, including increasing competition from digital native companies, evolving customer preferences and expectations, workforce dynamics and skilling, adoption of smart business processes, optimizing IT costs, and increasing regulatory and compliance oversight. Let's analyze the influence of these developments on the operational excellence under three distinct themes. One, the strategic alignment, that's across business models, customer segments, products, and services. The second one is going to be smart operations, particularly focusing on internal processes. And the last one is going to be influence of digital technologies. To start with, let me turn to you, Henry. The first theme is about strategic alignment of various aspects of operations. Firstly, Henry, how do you see the business models evolving over the years? Which aspect of business changed in the last years, and how do you see this evolving in future?
That's a very interesting question, Sudhir. First, hope everybody's having a good day. So, business model. When we underwent our digital transformation in Union Bank, we started with the business model of the banking industry here in the Philippines. So conventional wisdom in the Philippine banking industry before were you have to service your customers through three major channels. One is branch banking, and they're all brick and mortar. Second was through the ATM, and third, you're successful if you process a lot of paper checks. So those were the three business models of how you service banking customers in the Philippines. So 4 years back, we said, in order for our digital transformation to have a major impact in the industry, we have to deconstruct those three business models. And guess what? Going against the grain, where the conventional model is to scale out your branch, your ATM, and your check processing, Union Bank started reducing our branch footprint, our ATM, or we just maintained it to where it was already. And we started moving from paper checks to digital checks. And the nice thing about it is we were able to work closely with the Infosys with our transformation. And we had to change the business model that is serviced by our CASA system. So we developed a lot of rich APIs that allows us to integrate a lot of our internal systems and also allowed us to integrate a lot of new ways of doing stuff. So in the end, the business model moved from brick and mortar branches, ATMs to a highly evolved, highly flexible, and customer-oriented convergent app. So from driving customers to the branches, we now tell our customers you don't have to go to our branches, but if you want to, just to experience new stuff in technology, then you can. But if you want your banking services to be fulfilled from anywhere you want to, just download our app, take a selfie of yourself, take a picture of your KYC credentials, and then wait for 5 minutes and your account is now open. Now, we did that in order for them to onboard on our digital platform so that when they want to do fund transfer, they want to do payments of bills, they don't have to go to our ATMs anymore. They just do do it all electronically. And the nice thing about it also is because we have that platform working with your team, we were able to develop check imaging that allows our customers to take a picture of their check and get the checks deposited to their accounts at will. So we started with the business model that was prevailing at the time. We closely worked with our business and process teams together with our technology partners to deconstruct the business model and create new business models. And Sudar, we didn't expect the pandemic to happen. We didn't wish it to happen, but when it did, it validated the new business models that we pursued.
Thank you, Henry. That's very interesting, and no wonder that you've been pioneers and today leaders in the industry. Thank you. In continuation with the theme of strategic alignment of business operations, let's explore the aspect of changing customer expectations. Now, Ajay, do you see a remarked changes in the customer expectations in retail segment? How are you evolving your operational and technology capabilities to engaging them in an effective manner?
Yeah, good morning, Sudhir and everyone. So customer expectation is continuously changing. It has been evolving. If you look at the customer segmentation itself, earlier we used to segment the customers in maybe three, generally we put it in three buckets, whether you call it, like in our bank, we call it Imperia, preferred and classic customers. Some others might be calling it as platinum, gold and standard, or that kind of customer segmentation, which was more to do with the customer's relationship with the bank. That was probably the criteria to identify the customers and put them in each of those segments. And their needs from the financial services perspective were different, and their way of banking were different. They needed different kind of relationship management and all that. That was a customer segmentation, which is still relevant because those financial needs are still varying from the customer type to customer type. But a new dimension that has come is the digital and non-digital, or I would say that completely digital to less digital to no digital. That kind of customer segmentation, and then we started calling them Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, and accordingly implement the solutions and platforms where they are comfortable with doing the business. So now it is a combination of both financial services and the platforms they want to do, because the new customer segments, who are the customers who are more digital savvy, they probably would not want to engage with somebody human body, because they are more to aligned to the talking and chatting and texting and all of that. So that is a need of this customer type, and that is where we have implemented our digital solutions where customers can do the most of the transactions they can do, rather all the transactions they need on a day-to-day basis. They can just do it in the mobile banking app itself. They don't even have to go to the net banking. And of course, the branch, hardly people visit. ATM people visit only when they need to withdraw cash. So that way, the technology evolution along with the customer segment evolution is what has taken place, and it is still taking place. But it is a continuous journey. One more segment that I would say is the combination of these two, where earlier we thought that when it is senior citizens, like people who are more than 60 years of age, they may not be comfortable doing the financial transactions on the digital channels. But now we see the demand coming from them, because these are the customers who are transitioning from the traditional banking to the digital banking. And they are also showing a lot of interest, saying that, no, don't disable any of the services which I was used to be getting on the digital channels just because I have become senior citizen or I have become more than 60 years. So now we are also working on that. How do we provide all those facilities to them in a very, very secured manner, in a very, very convenient manner on the platforms that we have implemented? So that is the need. I won't say so much of challenge, because technologies are available, solutions are available to make this all happen. And the most important thing is that how do you take care of the security, the information security, the cyber attacks, cyber security has become a very, very key of all these technology innovations and implementations for these kind of customers.
Ajay, thank you. That is a very short description of contextualizing, as well as how do you really get yourself on the digital path with the right process and technology. Sajid, Finacle is working with banks across all segments and personas to power unique business models. The coverage includes global, regional, as well as community banks across the world. There are a lot of digital-only banks where digital-first omni-channel banks are very prevalent. Retail-focused banks, wealth management-focused, as well as business and corporate banking-focused across the world. So, how do you really manage across this spectrum, which is very dynamic?
See, look, we've been fortunate enough to be working with a lot of variety of banking organizations, right? I mean, on one side, we have these large, big institutional banks like HDFC, ICICI, State Bank of India, Emirates, and BD. And plus, on the other end, there are some very, very new digital banks, standalone digital banks, if you will, cooperative banks in India, credit unions in Australia, a variety of banks, right? And as Henry said, pursuing different business models. What we have chosen to is to go with a single solution set for this, right? So our philosophy have been, build a very, very flexible single solution, which is probably not what everybody in the market is doing. Different people have different strategies, but we have chosen to go flexible, big. Let's have a solution that takes care of everything, right? Now, clearly, with all choices, there are pros and cons. What we end up in having, or the way we are pursuing is, we're building these levels of flexibilities across various of our core banking digital channels segments, right? So either making it very flexible for partners to adopt through APIs, or building some right discoverability, telemetry, etc., within the core banking suite. So these innovations can be leveraged by various banks as when they need. And sometimes we don't even know what are those potential uses of those flexibilities and features that we provide, right? So our whole philosophy, let's just layer it and have different levels of flexibility and capability at various layers, targeting a different persona of banks and users. So like, for example, ENBD runs core banking on our traditional core banking platform and channels, and they've launched their digital-only bank, which is Live, on the same product suite, right? So just that we closed some rooms that were leveraged for the earlier bank, and then opened some new other rooms that was more relevant for the digital bank, right? Now, where does it lead us? It's kind of gives our customers a very, very seamless evolution to move on in various segments and be agile. But what it does is it kind of increases the complexity around doing these things as well, right? Because sometimes there are too many rooms to close. And what have we done of late with the new situation that's in the world today, and a lot of people going the digital way, etc.? We are rolling out very prescriptive configuration packs, if you will, right? So we'll probably stand up a credit union in Australia in probably 3 months' time, right? So stand it up. So it's still the same underlying software, but it's a very, very prescriptive set of configuration pushed into it, as opposed to people discussing, debating, understanding pros and cons for every curious mind, and then building something, right? So that model has worked pretty well for us, and it's the same homogeneous solution that's working very well. What we are also doing as a part of this is, look, in the past where people work with each other, in the same room, having access to experts by walking across the room and so on, everybody got guidance very freely in terms of what to do and what not to do with various components. And like, for example, you could do a customization or changing a process in 2 different ways. And it was very easy for people to reach out to experts because they are all in the same floor and so on, right? And now with this remote working and everything else, what we are driving right now is a more prescriptive approaches to doing one thing here versus somewhere else, right? And we're kind of closing down or discouraging the use of certain components for certain purposes, and very widely encouraging the use of certain other components for those purposes, right? Like the Open API is a very classic example, right? We kind of documented things very well so that the world and the industry understands how to use those APIs. Put a simulator behind it so that you don't even need your core banking system to build things around it and make sure that the stuff works and so on, right? So these are all separately deliverable components for a bank as they implement, and that's how we are driving through this journey of evolving with a single, flexible, robust solution suite to cater to a variety of business propositions.
Thank you, Sajid. So it's a seamless evolution, agility, prescriptive configuration, and open APIs. I mean, these are the buzzwords which are going to really drive us in the future, and probably even today. So, folks, that was an interesting round of conversations, and thank you for your valuable inputs, my panel members. Let's now explore the next theme, which is about smart processes. In today's context and the rapid digitization that we witnessed last year, it is important to reimagine the external and internal processes with a customer-centric focus. So, Henry, how have you been? I mean, you have been very successful in this space, and can you elaborate as to what has been your approach and what's been your mantra for success in this space?
So, Sudhir, that's another excellent question. So, to be customer centric, you have to be not just take in the feedback of the customers, because they have a lot. And as I just mentioned, actually, security really matters. So, while customers give you their feedback, they also change their minds. And in changing their minds, sometimes you have issues with security. So, to us, smart processes entail that you should be fast, reliable, flexible, and secure. Now, how do we design our processes to be that way? So we started 4 years back with waterfall methodology, where we are very careful in getting the requirements from the users, then the business, then anywhere between 6 months to forever, you get the capability and the products you want launched. So Union Bank started moving to Agile. And story goes, and since we've been working closely with Finacle for quite a while, I guess your technical team has now realized that we don't do releases in 6 months or 4 month cycle. We now do releases in 2 week cycle. Kudos to your technical team for keeping up with us. And we were able to do that because we modified our systems to be agile. We cannot anticipate the customer's whims. But if we want to be customer-centric, we have to seriously take their comments when they really want certain services. And it changes. Like in this pandemic scenario, we didn't realize that the customers demanded digital onboarding without going to the branches. In fact, they didn't demand it, they needed it. So because of that, we were able to move very fast. And kudos to our agile process. Now from agile, we realized we need to move much, much faster. So we've reorganized again our processes around the customers' demands and whims, and we created our own DevSecOps methodology in the bank. And everybody knows what DevSecOps is. Most tech companies like yours use DevSecOps. And the concept there is you can launch very fast and you need not sacrifice quality over speed. And for obvious reason, you need not have to sacrifice quality, speed, and security. So we don't know what the customers will require of us a month from now, a year from now, or even tomorrow. It's a VUCA world. Everything's volatile, everything's chaotic. But as soon as the customers demand something from us, we have to be very fast in responding. So that's how we configured our customer-centric processes, or our smart processes, so to speak.
Thank you, Henry. So instant gratification is the key word.
Yeah.
To really cut down in terms of, your cycle time in for 2 weeks, and that's the only way you can actually provide what customer wants. So very, very valid indeed. So Ajay, today is the world of data analytics, and that's indeed driving the operational excellence in a very profound way. So how have you been able to really achieve significant strides in this space? Could you please elaborate on that?
Let's first understand when we talk about the customer experience, and generally it has been seen that we talk about giving the front-end customer capabilities on the digital channels, and many a times we forget the fulfillment of the transaction. So what happens is that one part of the transaction gets digitized or automized, what is customer touch point, but rest of the process, transaction processing, does not get so much automated or digitized. And what happens in that scenario, the end result to the customer is not really 100% or very close to that faster processing or the 100% customer experience improvement that we want to give. So it is very important that the operational processes also get automized and digitized when we are talking about the customer experience and customer centricity. In that process, what we have been doing and continuously we have been doing is redefining the operations itself. What is operations? How do you define the operation? In earlier days, operations means daily, routine, mundane, repeatable transaction processing. The transaction comes to operations through some paper-based or whatever is the alternate method of getting a transaction, and then it gets processed across multiple applications or multiple channels, multiple systems. Now, how do you achieve operations digitization is primarily through automation and straight-through processing. So the philosophy that we use in our bank is that ensure that there is no duplicate data entry across multiple applications. See, we all agree in today's world, all the applications, and we are using plenty of them, all the applications, they are interconnected. There is hardly any standalone application that can fulfill, including core banking system, if you talk about. And then there is a need for the data to flow from one application to another application. And that is where our philosophy is that one data entered into our bank system from whichever source, anywhere it has to go, it has to travel in a straight through manner, and there should not be any reason for any intervention, any manual interventions, so to say, and the data should flow. So that is the kind of automation is what brings the operational excellence and the efficiency that comes. Now, straight through processing, when we talk about, it may be possible in all the scenarios, it may not be possible in many scenarios. And that is when we have looked at robotic process automation, where it is not necessarily that complete straight through processing, but it is through RPA that you further optimize the operations process, but you have to digitize, you have to automate it, because there is no point. You have given few seconds experience to the customer to submit his application, whether it is for account opening or for it is a loan processing, and then we take several hours to process that application. That doesn't give the instant gratification to the customer. So it is important that the entire workflow has to be automated and digitized, and that is where you bring the entire efficiency. Now, what happens to the operations? Operations, the moment you do that, if you digitize, actually, in my view, there should not be any operations. There should not be any physical processing of the transaction the moment you have automated it and you have done straight through processing. Use those operations, experience, resources to have a much better vigil on the transaction, have a much robust reconciliation of the transactions, have much better methods to check on the fraudulent transactions. And that is where the operations role has changed in our bank. drastically over last few years, where it is more of automation, more of straight-through processing, and more of robust reconciliation and vigilance on the transactions so that the transactions don't go bad, there are no fraudulent transactions. With that objective is where we have used automation and efficiency, brought in efficiency in the operations processes. Thank you.
Sajid, it is a shared belief that automation will accelerate digital operating excellence. What is your view on this subject? And also, what would be a good strategy for automating processes across banks' different processes, please?
See, digital is about disintermediation, right? A process become complete and digitally enabled when you have end-to-end disintermediation or automation of the process. As Ajay mentioned, unless this whole thing is complete, it is really not digital at all, right? Now, in this context, there are three distinct aspects in making a process automated, right? One is, of course, the elimination part of it. If you don't have to do something, we really don't have to do that, right? And we heard Ajay from HDFC saying how their philosophy is not to enter data once it's captured somewhere else in the system, right? So, and what do? Systems leverage APIs, organizations leverage APIs to connect among themselves, connect to the external ecosystem and so on. So you really get what you need to process forward without any manual intervention. So it's kind of like an elimination, right? This kind of drives this straight through processing and everything else very well. Now, there are a few things that you cannot achieve by doing this, right? That's simply because there is some amount of manual work, there is some back-end process that is needed, and that's where this RPA and robotic comes to your rescue, and that's gaining a lot of momentum these days. And when people have used RPA for two things: one, to do repetitive tasks, and two, to perform some tasks more intelligently than what is otherwise done with manual intervention. These two things are really getting a lot of adoption, and people, whoever is implementing is finding a lot of value out of it as well, right? So that's the second part of it. The third part of it, this is all about automating that whole digital value chain, right? Which is the primary transaction flow. The third part of it is about building applications that can, or functionalities that can solve these wicked problems, which otherwise take a lot longer to solve. And these things keep happening for a period in time, right? At every point in time, you have something that is hard to solve. We heard Henry talking about how some of these AI-based things are helping them achieve the right results and so on, right? So those things otherwise take a lot of manual effort. By using AI, using some complex application logic or comprehensive application logic, you really simplify that part of it and make things lot automated and less manual effort intensive, right? So that's one part of the regime, which is all around managing the functional part of it. There are two more parts to automation, right? One is this whole technology application building, which is all your DevOps pipeline and automation and cloud-enabled way of working and so on. So that's the other aspect which really drives automation, and that's an area where everybody should focus on, because driving smaller changes incrementally in a fast-paced manner is the order of the day, and to enable that, you really need to invest in a robust DevOps pipeline and a platform. The last thing, very interesting thing that Ajay mentioned was, how some things break and how you have not really digitized the whole thing, right? For example, launching a service request, or when things go wrong, you really don't get to know in the traditional model when things went wrong unless somebody reported that it went wrong, right? So there's the whole responsibility of digital is also to automatically let you know in a comprehensive fashion when things went wrong without someone having to tell you something went wrong, right? So now there are things like telemetry observability that we need to build in as a part of the application ecosystem. In Finacle, we've been very actively pursuing all these aspects, and this is what clients could implement and make sure that as a part of the digital offering, when things go wrong, you really recover very quickly, and that experience is digital as well, right? So if let's say your point of sale application is not working, you went and had a coffee and came back, somebody actually, or a robot actually figured it out, got it fixed, and then this thing is back up and working, right? So these are the three levers of automation. If I would summarize that, that's really what is key to drive efficiency in this automation regime as we move forward in this world.
Ajay, let me get into this specific one. Let's explore our third theme and key enablers in pursuit of operational excellence, that is technology solutions. Firstly, let me ask you, being a large banking entity with very distributed operations, how do you look at the task of continuous modernization of your IT at your bank? What are the best practices and suggestions that you would like to share with the audience?
Thanks, Sudhir. Yeah, that is, of course, very key in modernization and automation, because IT, as we all know, is the enabler, and the kind of volumes that we are processing without technology being there, it is just not possible to scale to that level. And that is where is the need for a continuous augmentation of technology, review of technology architecture, and continuously looking at how we can scale it up. One thing that we have observed is before we reach the volumes which were given to us earlier, they have been reached by our business folks, and the technology has enabled so that they can do more business than what they themselves had projected. So it keeps us on toes always, so that we have to plan well in advance how to do the capacity planning, which is a continuous process run by our technology team, and make sure that business never feels the pressure of applications not scaling up. Now, it has got 2-3 aspects in terms of how technology enables this. One, of course, how do you scale up horizontally, vertically? That is one part, but how do you modernize the architecture part? And that is something which is not so easy when you are a fast-running organization, and then you have to change something, especially if you talk about applications like core banking systems. How do you modernize core banking systems or core lending systems and things like that when you have a business to run? There is no opportunity given to you to pause the business, because that's not what anybody wants. So that is always a challenge. And it is like, I always look at it, it's like, Formula One race, when you have to change the tires and something goes wrong. How is it done? And I have seen some videos, and how quickly they do it is something that we have to adopt in our technology world on a day-to-day business, so that our business folks don't feel that we are changing something in the back end or in the background, and business runs as if nothing has happened. And it's not easy. With our scale, volumes, complexity, and everything, it's not easy. It is a tough task, but that is a job that we have to do. So as a practice, or I would say practices, is continuously review what are the processes that we are running. Also review whether some of them have become redundant with the introduction of technology, because sometimes it happens and some organizations do find it difficult that the age-old processes which got implemented, they have served the purpose because they were built for the scale which was there at that time. No more applicable, no more efficient in the current complexity and the volumes. So continuously look at how you bring new technology, enable it, implement it without impacting the business, without impacting the operations, and continuously scale up, both in terms of transaction volumes and the complexity with the interfaces with the ecosystem and within the system. That's how these applications these days are implemented, and we need all of that. So that is the kind of challenge, and unless we do continuously improvement, modernize the technology architecture, modernize the applications that we are using, upgrade as and when they are required, not have the very old versions running and all that. Always be with the latest product, what OEMs provide, continuous upgrading, migrating to them, so that you are never on the old technology, old architecture, which doesn't scale up. Because at our scale, if we don't do that, when we get stuck, it will be too late, or rather too difficult for us to come out of that situation. So that is what we adopt as a practice, and as much as possible, keep upgrading, keep innovating, keep re-architecting, and support the business. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. I really liked your comparison of the Formula One race, because there's no provision for a pit stop, and you can never pause the business. It's always demanding, and that scalability factor is so prominent that we cannot be on the catch-up mode. We always has to be thinking ahead. So thank you for that very insightful articulation, Ajay.
Thank you.
Henry, I wanted to see how a bank can make the best use of disruptive technologies like cloud computing, APIs, IoT, and artificial intelligence. How has been your experience so far?
Well, disruptive technology, everything's disruptive nowadays. It's just a matter of when it's going to hit us, right? So I like the Formula One example of Jay earlier. It's like, we're racing and the pit stop is racing with us. We're changing tires as we race. And that's because of disruptive technology. So with Union Bank, we saw this coming 4 years ago. And we said, instead of us being disrupted, we will disrupt the industry. So we started with our cloud initiative. And we always had this notion, you're only as fast as your infrastructure. So if you have legacy infrastructure with you, how can you move to Agile, to DevSecOps? And in fact, I think the main event for us will happen sometime this year or early next year, when your team, together with our team, finally put Finacle on the cloud. I mean, talk about a full-blown CASA system, which will be in the cloud, which is going to be a first in the Philippines. That allows us not just the speed, but also the auto scaling that we can enjoy. So we're excited with the cloud as a disruptive technology, because the more we move into that, the more we leave the competition behind. On the API, we've created a lot of APIs with our CASA, and I think that's our major competitive advantage. The reason why a lot of our competitors also couldn't keep up with our ability to launch new products and services, and the stability for which our products and services are known for, is because they have to deal with legacy systems that don't have rich APIs. In our case, we've created an API wrap around our CASA that allows us to eliminate batch processing, to allow our customers to enjoy full 24/7 straight through services. So between API and the cloud, I mean, we can only move much faster. What we're excited next will be the things that we're working on and investing heavily. It's artificial intelligence. As early as now, we've seen a lot of initial benefits from our efficiency. The cross-sell, upsell has long been there, but in the area of efficiency, we've seen our AIs and our RPAs taking on 10 times the workload of what we would be that we have gained because of the digital transformation, without us increasing our headcount. Another exciting area for AI is the area of financial crimes. We're now applying AI in doing CTR, STR, and card fraud monitoring. And you know that area is very, very inefficient. In order for you to comply with the anti-money laundering laws, you either put in an army of people to go through all of the reportorial requirement. And the frustrating part there is the false positive on suspicious transaction is anywhere between 98% to 99%. So imagine you're putting in all those effort just to capture the 2 to 1% of issue. And with AI, we expect, but by end of this year, our false positive will go down to a rate of about 70%. Now, that's a lot of transaction that we could save. That waste a lot of people's time. So, disruptive technology is something that we will embrace. In fact, we'd rather embrace them as early as possible, experiment with them so that we don't get disrupted in the end. And again, I've said this over and over again, the competitive advantage we have is we have a CASA and uh, CASA system and a partner that allows us to move in step with these disruptive technologies. So kudos to your technical team, to your whole organization. You didn't allow us to be disruptive. Instead, you allowed us to become the disruptive force in the Philippine banking space.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you for those kind words. Absolutely, the AI and RPA can really give you that 10 times ability, scalability at the same point of time without having to add additional headcount. And I'm sure this is going to really evolve in a much more extensive and rapid way in the coming years. Interestingly, I want to go back to the Formula One, anecdote once again. And it is also being said that, the racer who is able to manage the turns, the curves, he's the one who's going to really, get that advantage ahead of the competition. Now, today, we are in one such sharp turn or a sharp curve on our tracks, and that's the pandemic which has hit us. Now, I wanted to, request Sajid to really elaborate on how are we, transitioning into cloud from a Finacle perspective in this pandemic, and what are the advantages we can really, what are the advantages the cloud is offering us today from a, agility and agility point of view. Sajid, over to you.
Considering that I was a Formula One racer in the past, so this should be a very easy conversation to have. No. So jokes apart, what has this pandemic done to us, right? Many bad things, some good things as well, right? See, earlier people felt secure in their premises, where most of the people who operated the system physically came to a place and they did stuff, right? And that physical layer added a lot of security and comfort for everybody, including themselves and the customers and the regulators and everybody for that matter. Today, everyone is remotely working, right? So if you're an employee of a bank, doesn't matter. If you're a customer, you're working remotely, employee working remotely, IT departments are working remotely. Everyone is working remotely, right? Now, obviously, the physical security is not an option anymore. Therefore, the cloud hosted by these large cloud providers like Microsoft, Google, AWS, Oracle, etc., has become very secure. They have really all the technology and everything else on a like-for-like space. The cloud seems to be like more secure with especially the instances of incidents of cyber attacks going up as well, right? So that's kind of made it more level playing, if you will, right? You lost the security of the data center in some form. So this actually opened up a fresh wave of opportunities for people to leverage cloud more than ever, and therefore they actually get exposed to and some form addicted to the other advantages of running things in a cloud, right? So it's not just my data center versus somebody else's data center. It is a lot more than that, like the way Henry mentioned earlier, right? Now, what are we doing in Finacle to make that happen? One, since over the last 2 years, we've been on a very comprehensive cloud native journey. Products that we released about a year ago are very, very cloud deployable, cloud ready, cloud native, whatever you want to call that, containerized, scales up and scales down, comes with the DevOps pipeline behind it. You'll see some significant improvement in the hardware consumption and the scalability and so on, right? So that's out there. And not just the cloud, it's leveraging the cloud part of it a lot more comprehensively. The second part of it is now of course, you go to with cloud, there's a lot of power, and therefore you have the ability to leverage it in more ways than one. So associated with it, we've really focused on the time to market as well. Right now, you can spin up a container or a pod in few minutes. Along with it, there's a new initiative where we can actually push configurations very quickly as well, right? Like less than a day, you can push the full configuration, reference configuration for a bank inside, so that you really get to experience and see how things are working, and therefore drive things in a more agile manner and get that into your pipeline. Third aspect is the whole focus around training and adoption, knowing very well that now this is on the cloud, it is anonymized to a certain extent, and there is not anyone who is actually logging from within and then therefore a higher privileges and so on. So streamlining this whole thing, and to kind of prove this well, we ourselves deployed this model in multiple places, either hosting something for a customer on the cloud and just managing it for them, so that it's a possibility and it is working well, or enabling the customer to manage Finacle on the cloud. So it's kind of like a public cloud, but the customer managed, like the way we run deposits business in Goldman Sachs, or launching a platform which is more of a banking full bank platform. We run the whole thing. Customer subscribes into this, we onboard them, and like the Australia Military Bank. These are these various business models we have put out there to show as a proof point that these things work very seamlessly, and the customers are able to leverage the full value of cloud. As I'm looking forward to, Henry, your go live as well, right? To see, how we get the benefit of and benefit of this whole thing. And clearly, this is the way to go, right? And this is actually, see, I get excited talking about this, right? This is clearly the way to go. And in some form, the pandemic taking the comfort of physical security out of us, it's probably driving a lot of innovation in the world. Now, regulators have started taking notice of this, and they've said, yeah, no, this is not a bad idea. Every person is open for this idea right now. So I hope we will see a lot of uptake in the cloud deals and the cloud adoption, and it'll become a normal thing maybe 2 years later. 2 years later, no one is probably talking about on-premise at all. So truly looking forward to the change with the support of customers like yourselves, and ready to embrace a very exciting journey ahead.
Sajid, thank you. Absolutely. The cloud is going to be the order of the day. I can clearly see that excitement in your words. And I'm sure none of us can really ignore that, and that's going to evade every space we walk. So gentlemen, thank you. With that, we have come to the final round of our discussions. In this round, may I request you to share some of your experiences in your journey, or particularly, a story where you have really driven the digital operational excellence in your organizations. And probably, some of the experiences and learnings you've really gone through would help the audience in understanding the elements better. Can I start with you, Jay, on this storytelling?
Sure, Sudhir, thank you. And yeah, so I have a few such experiences. Like we created this product called 10-second personal loan, which was, one is that the journey itself was very exciting, and even after 4 years of implementation, it continues to be our flagship product of delivering the PL within 10 seconds to the customer on the fly. But I'll share another one on the similar lines which we implemented, is the loan against securities and digitization of that. So loan against security is the product where you get a loan against your equity shareholdings in your DMAT account. And this was a complete physical process. Physical in the sense customer will make an application, there will be a touch point, and that application will get processed. And because the depository accounts banks are only depository participant. Depository accounts are held by the depositories like NSDL and CDSL. There was a whole lot of process of, how do you create the pledge before giving the loan to the customer, and that process that time used to take somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks for an application to get processed. And we had thought of digitizing it through our net banking, where the demat holdings are already available as a statement or as a holding statement, and starting from that through complete digital experience for the customer, so that he or she doesn't have to submit any application physically, doesn't have to talk anyone, and complete the entire journey on the digital. So this 2 to 3 weeks uh, process, which was quite a bit of it manual and multiple touch points, came down to some 2.5 to 3 minutes on the digital. So, and because it was interfacing with multiple applications internally as well as externally, because NSDL and CDSL, who are the depositories, they are external entities, integrating their applications with our applications was the most exciting stuff that we did. And we did it with a huge amount of finesse, and really established that a new account opening and giving the loan or the limit against the equity shares to the customer within 2.5 minutes is possible, which earlier we thought manual process, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sounding very difficult, but we did it. And that again has given us a huge amount of benefits, and the kind of customer experience that has been given is really, really tremendous. And this also remains as one of our flagship products that we implemented. And this all happens only when you are able to collaborate well across multiple departments within the organization, and also coordinate with the external entities who are uh, also open to this kind of interfaces, integrations, and amenable to do some kind of experimentation. Internally within the organization, it is comparatively easier, because to collate and collaborate and educate the people and bring them on the same page. But doing it with external entities is more challenging. But that also, if you put the right things in front of you, and if you are having customer-centric product or the process, then I think everybody gets aligned to it, and that's what we did it. And we are very proud to be associated with that kind of an digitization that we did. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. That's very exciting, and I'm sure that collaboration must have been the key across both internal and external. Well, thank you, Henry. Can you highlight digital initiatives from your end?
So, hearing Ajay talk about their experience, it resonates strongly with us also. In order to have a success in your digital journey, you really need to have internal and external collaboration. In our case, we felt that everything in Union Bank that we did very, very successfully is a labor of love with so many team and people working around it. So, I mean, it's hard to, it's like asking who among your children is your favorite. So I'll say it's not my favorite, but it's the most successful, one of my favorite, but it's the most successful project that we've undertaken. It's the Union Bank Convergent app. It has been successful in so many aspects. From a cultural standpoint, it brought the organization together. Working with our regulators, we had to pull in our legal, we have to pull in our corporate governance or risk management, because we are deconstructing business models, as I've mentioned earlier. And from the financial success that this has given us, it has actually, imagine, before our digital app, we were onboarding a total of about 2,000 customers on the average per month through our branches. But with our digital onboarding facility on our online app, we're now onboarding anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 customers a day. And that's a huge step increase in terms of the number of customers that we're onboarding. And I can go on and on about the efficiency and convenience that it has provided our customers. But the one thing that really resonates strongly with us is it brought our organization together. It was called Project Alpha because it was the first project that we executed agile in an agile manner. And we solicited the help of the regulators, our technology partners, and everybody across the organization. So beyond the technical success that it's the cultural impact in our organization. So yeah, that's the one that really we're most proud of, and the most successful digital project that we've done so far. It's our Union Bank Online channel.
Thank you, Henry. In fact, very exciting. I'm sure that you're going to go, further and further on this journey and leverage a lot of benefits in future. Sujit, if you could elaborate on the very fact that in the last 12 months, we have been working remotely and most of the transformation programs have been completed in a virtual world. What's been the key learnings, as well as probably, the interesting facts you could share with the audience?
Before even I start answering this question, I just want to thank the customers for understanding this pandemic situation and truly doing everything they can to make things work for all of us, right? It's been amazing. So sometimes we come together very closely, very intimately when a crisis hits us. And this has been the best example of this, right? We would have thought without those airplanes flying all over the place, nobody would ever deliver IT services. And we would worry about somebody getting into a project like some 3 days late or a week late, like, oh, now what will happen? What is the plan B? Who is going to cover all of that stuff, right? Now, all of a sudden, completely unplanned, nobody is flying anywhere, right? And the kind of projects that went live, right? Like the 3 large amalgamations in India, like very big, right? I mean, even if everybody sat in a room, it was very hard to pull through, but then it really worked well remotely. And not everyone was used to managing things in a remote manner. Some of us did, some organizations are, some are not. Like the Bank of America go live in Indonesia, right? On the plan day with no one either from the bank side or from Infosys side working on site, right? So it's kind of amazing. It's just the way regulators and customers and employees and all organizations stepped up to deal with this challenge. So sometimes we need a crisis to come together, right? So I'm kind of, very excited and delighted to see this level of collaboration and camaraderie and making things happen. So it was amazing. So we cannot believe that this happened the way it happened, but thank you all. So I kind of wanted to acknowledge that before even starting to answer this question. Now, what did it teach us, right? It taught us a lot of things, and I'm not going to sit and talk through everything that it taught us right now. But the most important thing in my mind was it kind of helped us think on behalf of the other person very carefully, right? So it kind of redefined those handoff points, be it from requirements to build to test, or providing a clarification, writing a support ticket. You always kind of thought, look, there is a person who is going to sit somewhere without access to anybody else real time and kind of work on this, right? We kind of learned this though, right? It's not that, this dawned on everybody on 15th of March or something like that when the lockdown started and everything went okay, but kind of very quickly learned this. And that became a different model of deployment. A lot of stress and automation came in, right? Data migration, for example, you would talk to that person who is providing data some 16 million times otherwise to get every single thing corrected. Now, you know that you don't have that opportunity to sit together and look at that Excel together and then say, oh, this is wrong and this is right. So we really documented well and the other person responded as well, right? So we kind of, I think this helped humans think on behalf of the other a lot more. I mean, we can say it drove more empathy and so on and so forth. And this implementation model really embraced that fact very, very open-heartedly, right? As in every component that the team does, both from the bank and from us, really make sure that the work that you hand over is worthy of taking over by the other person with minimal need for clarification and so on, right? And therefore, how do you do that? You kind of automate as much as you can. You go with an opinionated configuration set, so there is no need to talk back and forth. And I think that fundamentally drove a different level of efficiency in this whole model. And also now we appreciate, I mean, we've always been appreciating, but this is a time where we appreciate it a lot more, how important it is for customers to be able to use Finacle without us being around in the corner, right? I mean, you know, I would really love if an IT department or a bank's implementation professionals in a bank just did this by themselves without having to call us at all, right? So that was, in fact, that's been one of our key priority from this year onwards, right? To look at a customer as a fully enabled group of individuals who can deploy Finacle, make the best out of Finacle, and all those flexibility that I spoke about in the earlier conversation. How do we enable the customer to do that, right? So I think that's the single largest change the pandemic way of working has made. I think very soon we will be best at understanding each other's needs and kind of enabling other people to use your product as opposed to doing it for them, right? All this while we were confident, yeah, if something is not working, somebody will get into a plane and go there in a day and then fix it for you. And it suited everybody, right? It suited both sides. Now, this is the time where we genuinely make other people empowered. And, you know, Henry, on your digital journey, we really want you to be enabled to do whatever you want to do with Finacle without even calling us, right? So that's really what this pandemic has, that one big lesson that the pandemic has taught us, right? And I'm really glad that we have embraced it well together with our customers and look forward to driving a very different set of efficiency as we move forward in this new model.
Thank you, Sajid. That was very well articulated. Folks, now we have come to the end of what has been a very stimulating discussion. A big thank you to all our panelists for being part of this and lending their valuable insights. Our attendees, I thank you for tuning into the session and hope you enjoyed the conversations. Do come back to view the session recording and feel free to share it with your colleagues who may benefit from this session as well. I hope you will stay tuned to Finacle Conclave and enjoy the high quality speakers and discussions lined up for you. Do check out the agenda on the event website for details. Goodbye and stay safe. Back to you, Lakshmi.